They're just showing the apartment to people or the
Yeah,
building.
there's like all this filmmaking here. All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hans Comyn, round 2. All right, so we have an interesting story because we did these epic interviews. They're so amazing, and now nobody's going to see them because of hard drive failure. But
It only makes them more epic.
yeah. and they might happen. We might be able to recover that action. But so, man, we've been talking a lot in the last 2 weeks you've been here.
Yeah, a bit more, but we've been talking a lot, yeah.
And you started off saying this has allowed you to see the difference of you. You know, when we were setting all this stuff up.
Right.
What are some of those differences?
Well, as I was just saying, I notice in the way I present my craft and also teach it that my main angle, perspective, or the way I see myself is as an artist. And I really look at seduction as an art form, the ultimate art form, let's say, almost like a performance art thing, you know.
Yeah.
And my book is like the credo to that performance art piece. And the way I look at seduction is not as a means to an end, as I see a lot of people use it as a means to get from the other what they want, but really as an art form in itself, you know, like the encounter, the interaction is the platform where your art is created, you know, with your audience. So
one of the things that you make me think about that is that there's two things with that. We go back on art. We talked about that a little bit in the salvageable part of the podcast that we have.
Right.
But there's also this element of meeting people where they're at. And we've talked about this in the last 2 weeks. And so many people see seduction as a means to an end.
You're right.
How do you see that happening? There's a lot I could say about this, but where do you see guys?
Well, to me, I don't know if this is your question, but this sure is my answer.
Yeah, that's what we want.
To me. Thank you for asking. Let me answer something completely different. For me, seduction, the first step, and this is very practical for guys too, the first steps of seduction is always, first and foremost, to meet the other in their world. So it's not luring someone into something else. It is meeting the other in their world, so they feel seen, so they feel heard, so they feel felt. I even, like for years I thought that was empathy, but now in my recent work, I go a step further and I say more than like meeting them in their world, it's honoring them in their world. Imagine that you not only know how to walk their shoes, but honor that you understand why this person made the decisions they made. You know, very practical when you see a woman, and a lot of guys say, "Oh, she's bitchy," you know, or whatever. When you find a way to walk this woman's shoes, why she's reacting the way she reacts, and also honor her for that. Now, if you manage to do that, now you can lead her into a different world. Now, when she feels seen, felt, and heard, now you can guide her and say, "Hey, there's a different world out there, a world in which you don't have to be so, say, bitchy, but you can be this way," you know, and you create a different way of interacting. But that's only possible when you meet them in their world, because that's the number one need that people have, men, women, anyone in this world. We all want to be seen, felt, and heard, you know, everywhere in the world where I go. That's the number one desire. When we have food, when we have a roof above our head, that's what we want.
Well, yeah. And there's a lot to this, because I know there's guys on here going like, but what does this have to do with sex? What does this have to do with this urge that I have? What does this have to do with masculine power and all these things? This is interesting because for me, I mean, I love seduction and all that it is given. And in the last podcast that we did, we were talking about how you have thought about this more than me, which is I don't say that to anybody, literally. And of course, you know, if I talked with Zan or Eric Hypnotica, you know, I think that that would be there too. But in the dialogue, it was like, man, you've really philosophized about this. And I have a lot.
Yeah.
When it comes down to all those things that men are dying for sexually, a lot of times what I hear is a fantasy.
Yeah.
But I've also lived those fantasies. And that fantasy starts out with what I call choice, a woman being allowed to express herself, which is kind of like how you're saying,
Right.
Man, I actually forget how you just worded it.
Yeah.
but to honor her, to allow her to express. What's the difference between sex when it is achieved, when it is had, when it is experienced with a woman who has sex done to her? Is opposed
Right.
to, because there could be a dude. Sex is powerful. There's a dude who doesn't know any of this shit,
Right.
and he just fucks
Now,
the
when-
shit out
when-
of a girl, and
Yeah.
she's good. But there's a difference,
And we like us, sometimes we want that, you know.
of course.
But
yeah.
I think any guy knows the difference between sex that is doing to her as sex connected, you know, when you have like my most amazing experiences where when a woman had enough trust in me to really surrender and really go there. And it's hard for a woman, you know, it's scarier for her than for us. And, but when she feels the trust and can completely let go and completely go there, a woman, in my experience, goes to places that I'm almost a little jealous of, because it's so.
You know, it's interesting but I'll also say it. Not every man knows this, because you said every man knows the difference of.
Well, every man knows the difference between, I think, you know, having sex just for sex and when he really feels a connection, when he feels in love, when he feels the girl. It's a different experience.
But then there's this thing where you say it's terrifying for a woman. And this is a distinction, I think, in sex, which I find key in working with guys. So, like, you know, I work with guys. There's a technical component to it, which is hard because the seduction is abstract. It's just so funny because pickup is obsessed with the technical side of it. But to me, women... it's terrifying to allow herself to let go.
Yes.
And we see this with what a lot of women talk about when they're critical or when they've been traumatized by sex. And we're not fully going there, at least maybe yet in the conversation. But it's all about how sex happens and how it's done.
Yes.
But men, I believe, are terrified once they give all of themselves to a woman. And we see this with men, with a lot of the men's rights stuff. It's like, well, I gave all myself to this marriage. But where we see this in the physical act of seduction, and I love this because men act crippled when this happens. And it's beautiful to see, but you totally give yourself to a woman. You have sex, you give her physically everything that you wanted.
Right.
But she doesn't care. At the end of it, she's like, okay, later. And gets up and leaves. And this is where you see guys who have tons of experience. Doesn't matter how much you have.
Right.
Me, I will chase her at that point. I will be like, I won't be able to control it. You know,
Yes.
it's tapping into this force of nature. I guess what my question is in this is letting go for a woman is beautiful.
Yes.
Learning to let go as a man in that situation, is there a beauty in that you've seen?
My thought when you were speaking this is that maybe you have more facility doing this than me in a way. Because I have a very much.
What do you mean by that?
I see very much in my relationships, in most of my relationships, that I've been. Even if I give everything I have, I never really lost control. This is something I'm thinking about right now, you know.
Yeah,
and I think maybe you have that more, the ability to like go there 100% and be completely like vulnerable, and
in the act of sex.
Okay.
This has happened. Like I can't really remember where it's happened.
Right.
But I know it's happened. But I see it happen to guys all the time. And when I talk to women who are friends of mine that are very comfortable with their sexuality, they talk about it like all the time. They're like, man, I fucked this guy and I did what he wanted. One and done. And now he's chasing me. You know? It's like every man's dream, right?
Right.
And so that's more or less where I see it. But where I do see it on the back end outside of the physical, you could be in a relationship. I mean, you work and you make money or you provide or you offer. And when that's not enough, that is pain for a man. That is crazy, you know?
Right.
I want you to finish your thought on this because I know you're thinking about it, but if not, I can go.
No, continue, because I'm not sure that I really understood it.
Check this out. We were in this doing this workshopping in our groups, and we were talking about, what do you feel when you first meet a woman? Like, what do you feel? And guys are like, oh, I like her tits and ass, whatever. But we're like, really, what do you feel? Because the more we talked about it, the more we got to this point of like we see a girl with a guy, and I'm like, oh man, I can do better than that. I can do better than that guy. Like, why is she with him? Or you, like, I'm 41,
right?
And then you see a girl who's in her 20s, and you're like, man, if only, you know, which is fine, you know, I'll take that if only. But a lot of guys, you hear this throughout time, men saying like, if only I could have my opportunity,
right,
you know, with her, and teach her things or whatever. But it's so much about leading. It's so much about providing. And now men are ashamed of that.
Okay.
You know, but so that feeling of that provision,
yes,
that feeling of doing for somebody, how can men learn that more?
I'm not sure. I see. I
how
understand.
How can a man be a leader to a woman?
Exactly. Okay. Well, that is maybe for me. It is key to seduction, and keep seducing your wife is really take charge, really take care, really provide in a way. You know, taking 100% responsibility for the relationship. I always think it's a man's role, like in a dance, to lead the dance, and so it's the number one thing to. Even if you don't know where you're going, it's better to lead. Women will follow, and guys have trouble nowadays to even take responsibility of their own life. You know, they blame things outside, and they don't take full responsibility, let alone take responsibility for the glory of that relationship. And by that, I don't mean like take responsibility for the way she feels, because that's her thing, yeah. But you gotta hold that. You gotta hold her heart. You gotta hold that relationship and say, okay, I'm leading this thing into glory. I'm gonna do it, you know. And I speak about 3 stages of a seducer, and that's the 3rd stage. That's the most difficult of all, you know. In a first stage, we think, I'll go right. Maybe this is a good way of explaining.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Yeah, what are the 3 stages?
In a first stage, a guy thinks, oh, I like this girl. She can give me something that I want. So he's wondering, does she like me? Does she like me? What do I do for her to like me, you know? And everything he does is like based in fear and scarcity, you know?
Right.
And I never call these guys seducers, because it's not really seduction. In a second phase, and this is where most guys that are in this space grow into, the second phase is a phase of where seduction becomes a practice in self-expression. And it's a guy It's a guy who grows into, like, say, self-development. He has a bit of success with women. It grows a little bit in abundance. And so he starts shifting from, do I like her, into, does she like me? Does she like me, to, do I like her? Is this a good girl for me? You know, because I'm developing myself, my skills as a man, as a seducer, you know, and women are almost secondary to that, to my own happiness, my own growth. Is this a good girl for me? Okay. And in this, so he's self-leading. There's self-leadership.
Right.
But there's a third phase, and I call it a phase of beauty, and it's the most beautiful of all. And very few men ever go to that phase because they're too self-absorbed to go there. And it's the phase of leading the other and leading the relationship into glory. You no longer ask, does she like me? Does she like me? Or do I like her? But you say, what can I do to make this woman shine? What is my role in this seduction, in this relationship, in this encounter? So everything is great, is glorious for everyone. And that's both in the meeting, in the dating, but certainly in the long-term relationships. And that's where I say, it's your role as a leader, it's your role as a man to be like, not only one of the two protagonists, but also the director of that movie, the master of ceremony, so to speak. You know,
you talk about these 3 phases, and the first phase is almost like you're fucking up, you know. It's not the way, right?
Yes. No, it is the way. You have to go through it, okay. And it's not just linear. You know, you could fall back because you think you're in phase 2 and you find this great girl, bam, phase 1. I know it for me, you know.
Yeah.
Or you go in one interaction, you go to phase 3 and then back, you know. But it's very good to see that. For me, it's a great analytical tool.
In that, but. So I guess for me, what I could relate with is in my journey, there's a point where I wanted to take. I was just so sexually motivated, but at the same time, not only that, I objectification was part of it.
Yes.
You know, to take to have those parts in it.
Yes.
And it was good. But as soon as, and this is what I don't understand about guys that get in that mode and they actually get results and they, experience women and whatever, and they stay in it. To me, that is almost impossible, but it's clearly possible because I see guys do that. Because to move into that second phase of self-expression and then giving and seeing the feminine was the natural, it was pain to not do that.
Yes.
If I didn't go to that.
Well, to me, phase one is
Go ahead.
taking. The second phase is sharing, and the third one is giving. And it's a different thing. And there's a place for taking. For example, in the erotic realm, there's complete different laws there. And taking is like imperious demands is just part of it. But that's not what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah. And that is definitely a topic that we could touch on if we get to it. But how long were you in that role? Because I think that's important of where you were taking or initially.
Right. I mean, it still shows up, It still shows up.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm in phase 3 now, or it's not like that, But there's a lot more of phase 3 in me right now than it was before.
What I noticed is in relationships, there was a certain period where there was, and what I'm like, I've never heard you talk about this, so this is all new, but just in relation to my own life, is there was that at first it was all that. It was all taking. It was all like, what can I do?
Right.
Doing sex to somebody else or doing me to another person and their submission. It was amazing. I see guys talk about this all the time and I'm like, man, if you're only getting there, you're missing out. Like, why? Like, go with it. But it got shorter and shorter, or it got more efficient of how to get that, or if I needed to get it back because, let's say in a relationship, and for me, it's so about sex, man. Like how can I achieve that?
Yes.
If it's not, like so many people are trying to achieve that with like, I'm going to stand up for myself. And like, man, put your dick in her and do what it's supposed to do.
No, but you laugh, but it is the tesão, Michael and my business partner, we talk about that, the tesão, the desire, and it's the platform of like the bedroom. There's everything is sculpted there. Everything, the kind of man you are, the kind of leader, it becomes apparent, and it is molded there. At the same time. So it's really like where you sculpt it, where you carve it out.
Right. Yeah. No,
there's no hiding there.
and I feel that, so the way I see it, because my life is so different now, that it's vital. If it is missing, then you are incomplete.
Right.
And what I mean by missing, if you do not understand, if you not fully express sexually yourself, if you haven't done your 3 phases of taking, of expressing, and then giving, if you have not experienced all those individually and then merging them into one thing, you are incomplete.
Yeah.
But I see so many guys like going, oh, well, that's, I can compensate in these other ways. You can't. No. I truly feel it has to be there. But then in a relationship like mine, which has gone on, like we're almost 7 years, and dude, that was crazy. Like for 2 years, all we did, I went minimum sex twice a day, sometimes 6. It was like too much for me. But it was so defining in how things went. Now there's all these other definitions, but without that sexual bedrock and without the continuance of sex, although it's not at the same hyper level as it was, you couldn't have it.
It's like money in the bank. You put money in the bank, and now you have the interest of that.
Yeah. When we get into this idea of seduction and sex itself, the language of sex is so different. I was just on a consult with somebody today, very new in relationships. He's had a lot of experience with women. He's young, and like, man, he's been with a lot of women, has no problem meeting women. And so this may be a little bit different for some of the people listening. They may not be able to relate with this, but you're going to get to this phase if you're a sexual man at some point. And he's like, but I met this woman and I want to be in a relationship with her, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for my career.
Right.
It doesn't make sense for who I am, who she is, her career, but I want it. And I was like, hey, man, you're going to enter into a whole new phase. And if you bypass this, because he's an animal, man, with work. He's an entrepreneur. He's killing it. Very young. And he's in a place where he could explode. I said, but if you don't take care of this, you're 25 or whatever, 26 or something right now, you're going to be 35. you're going to be a baby walking into a relationship.
What do you mean if you don't take care of this?
If you don't take care of how to communicate within a relationship,
Right.
if you don't take care of understanding the urge, and perhaps we should go to this as like monogamy or polyamory or free sex or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I always tell men, and I've kind of heard your take on this in writings or going back and forth on Facebook, but at every point, a man is going to want to give himself to a woman, and he's going to get drunk by it. How do you manage that? Because I'll feel many women like it's over 100 where I'm like, I will marry you and I will have kids with you.
Wow.
You know, sexually. I mean, I could have just met her that night, but it was so intense.
Right.
And to me, that's the biological urge. It's beautiful.
I'm a little jealous of that. Because I never felt that. I felt a strong like desire to sound like really like and wanting to consume her and really thinking I could spend the rest of my life with this woman. You know.
Tesão.
It's a Portuguese term, and it basically means erection. But it's also like tesão. They also use it for desire, you know. It's my friend Michael came with that word, and I think it's beautiful. So I had that, and I even remember now being with a woman that I thought was perfect in every regard.
Yeah.
The sex was great, the connection was great. I was like, I wasn't thinking of any other girls, you know. But I still did not think I want to marry this woman and have kids with her. And I still also knew at the same time, at one point, my cock is going to say, you already fucked her, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That experience that you had with 100 women, I didn't have. I
mean, I could
or
be
not
exaggerating,
yet.
but it's a lot. It's pretty, like, I mean, in a way, it's a dysfunction, you know, which I had to come to terms with. And I see this a lot with men that I coach, that they'll see a woman and they'll be like, I want her. Well, why do you want her? Why do you want her? Why do you have to have her? Well, because like I like her. It's me. She's my type. I'm like, you don't even know. You haven't even experienced. You haven't even seen her make a decision for you or against you or let alone how she has sex with you. Like, how can you even say that? But
would you say it's a thought? Because I'm a big defender of that feeling, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That it tells you where to go. It's a very important primal feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And this is also goes back to what we were originally talking about, that first phase of taking. That first phase of taking has giving in it.
Yes.
And guys deny that of themselves.
Right.
This is what I totally hate about.
Surrender to your desire, you know? Yes.
Pickup ignores this.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I was workshopping with these guys, it was like, no, man, I want to give to her. I want to provide for her. Like I could do good for her. I don't know her. I don't know anything about her. I don't even know how I would provide for her.
Right.
But that's my urge. And it's also the expectation of what a woman will have in a relationship as well. Is like, you know, do this for me. Like have this for me. Like nobody's thinking about this, but in the fights it comes out.
Yes.
So
yeah, I see what you mean now. It's very true. Like in pickup, you see that they try to minimize the desire, or when they feel it, like not look like it, they try to appear non-needy. You know?
Yeah.
Because they are.
When do you chase a woman?
When do I chase?
Yeah.
Whenever I feel like I really like her.
Yeah.
This is another example. People always chasing is bad. I think chasing is the greatest thing in the world.
Best. I agree 100%.
Being attached to the kill. That's the problem. You never see the lion not chasing. He's chasing with everything he got, you know. But what he doesn't do when he doesn't get the kill, he's not sitting there, fuck, did somebody see me? And, you know, did I get rejected?
Yeah.
You know? He's not attached to the kill, you know. And the chase is essential to every seduction. I would go as far as saying that every woman, she wants to feel chosen. She wants to feel fuck, you know.
She wants to be worked for.
Yes. I'm the prey. I got preyed on.
No, absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. And I've never understood why guys get so against the chase and I get why they're saying
it's because they're needy.
They don't want to lower themselves.
Yes.
They don't want to be rejected. They don't want the same thing to happen again. But you're missing.
Yeah.
Why would you want a woman to chase you? Like how unfulfilling that is. Like when guys like build up all this stuff in their life so that women come after them. And I'm all for you getting stuff or whatever.
Yes.
You know, like those things help. But
oh yeah,
dude, it's. Have you ever gone? So I've done a lot of drugs. If you've been with somebody, let's say you're at a strip club and you have cocaine or ecstasy, which is crazy. You game over, man. You like nobody can compete with that in certain environments, like where people want those things and do them, or at a Vegas club, and that guy's gonna have some action, right? But here's my problem with that every time is that one, they choose you too much, and the feeling of sex with that is not nearly as fun. The other thing too is you got one woman. There might be 10 women chasing you. You got time for all of that?
Right.
Like one, you don't want that. It's just too much drama. And after one or two, you know, depending on your appetite, it gets kind of old.
It's interesting. I interviewed once Pharrell Williams, you know Pharrell Williams, the producer.
Wow. Yeah.
And hello, it's okay.
No, you're good. You're good.
And he said this to me. I said, is it true with fame you get the women you want? You get all the women you want?
Yeah.
And he says, no. And I said, why don't you not get the women? He says, it's too hard to get through all the women that want me so I can get to the women I want. It's too hard because there are too many of the women coming for me.
I've never been in that situation, but I totally relate. No, but I totally relate. Like when you talk about Kenya or different areas, like where the roles are kind of reversed. Dude, it's the same thing.
Right.
You know, why would... This is something that guys don't get. This is another thing too, which kind of goes into the same thing, is like, if you can get hard too easily, like if it's too easy for you to get aroused and you don't want to fuck your girlfriend or a girl that you're dating or whatever, and they just take advantage of you, it's the worst feeling, right? It's the same thing when, oh man, it's for real. Like, it's, whenever I talk about...
I'm trying to... Okay.
Dude, it's a curse, man. If you can perform on command, and there were times where I could like come on command too, and they would just, it's not a good thing, man. And I get it if you can't come, like it's hard for you, or it's hard for you to get an erection. Now I'm older, and so that's like a reality that comes in. But like, dude, when I was like 32, 33, it was, oh man, there were people like demanding that shit, or when you get in that roles with women and there's lots of women around or whatever weird thing and stuff like that.
You're fucked, literally.
Dude, it's not good. Yeah, you are fucked figuratively and literally. But man, yeah, it's that thing where when there's too many women that want you, you don't get the women that you want, but also you don't get to pursue women in that way. And it's almost toxic. Like, it's disgusting. Yet so many men want that.
Well, I think it's a great experience to have that sense of abundance, so you understand the other side, you know? You understand what women go through, what the hot women go through.
Totally.
Like when we had it in Africa or Romania, where you're more like the desired. And it's great to understand. But to me also, like you said, my own desire, my own tesão, is holy, you know. Nothing is more important than feeling that, you know. It's worth pursuing in itself, you know. And to pursue a woman because of that, that's part of it. That's the greatest thing, you know. I'd rather feel that, you know, and be rejected than the other way around.
So what was the last sexual experience that blew your mind away? Like, I didn't think this was possible. It's hard not to say every, because that's what I'm thinking.
No.
Yeah.
We just off camera, we talked about this. Have one. I think, yes, it's, how do I say this? Respect. It was a threesome with my girlfriend, and a super hot girl. And it was over a period of time, a couple of times. And it was so great it was just, you know, to me, I always thought, why are threesomes so hard? You know, why is it so difficult? And then I thought, well, imagine you go to the movies with 3 people and you need to choose a movie you all agree on. That's hard, you know. Now add nudity to that, and you're
thinking about this in the wrong way, man.
Okay.
Dude, so I'm gonna say something effed up, but I want your take on it. Well, I don't think it's effed up, but this is like, to me, I see group sex as a situation more than a decision. And that being said, if I'm having sex where a decision isn't made, I don't want it. It doesn't feel good. So if I'm having sex where somebody feels uncomfortable or afraid, it's not good.
Right.
But I get that in the process there might be that.
Right.
But like it can't be that. It can't be that afterwards.
Right.
You know, it's so just going there. But I mean, I always just say if the girl walks in the door, man, or if two girls walk in the door and we get into a place where we can finish, where we can complete sex, like, and we can take escalation to its completion. It's easy. It's simple. But, and there's all sorts of different ways, but I think so many people think about it in a logical sense where they discuss it before. Because there's so many times where you can...
Well, don't you have like the situations where someone is not feeling sure of themselves and like you have to deal with that in a way, you know?
So what would make them sure of themselves? Like that's what I feel I have to get to.
Right.
And this is where like people would have a direct problem with this, but like I think more people should talk about this. She may have a issue, or I might have an issue, or dude, I'd even say 2 guys and 1 girl is better than 2 girls or 5 girls and 1 guy, because it gets man, it's gangbangs are better than threesomes.
I think we should stop right here because it's not going to get better than that, you know?
But so she's uncomfortable with the idea of it. She's uncomfortable with the reputation it might lead to. She's uncomfortable with getting hurt from this.
Right.
She's uncomfortable that if she makes this decision and it doesn't end up working out and somebody knows about it, it defines her. You know, an action has now been taken where she chose and now she's stupid again for putting herself in a bad situation or whatever. All these different things can go through her head. And I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but it's just my experience. I sense this.
Right.
But what she is comfortable with is desire. What she is comfortable with is what she loves about men. And so it all comes down to like dick or the orgasm and making me hard. It's not that, and what I mean by this, and this is what men need to realize, and this is when women are listening to this, I think need to realize it. It's not about women liking dick. It's that she likes her interaction of this making you aroused.
Right.
That it's that unique and that specific, that in that moment she's doing something to you. So how can I create that situation?
Right.
How can I create that situation without being some whatever, like PUA guy?
I can see now, you know, but I was thinking of like 2 girls and a guy.
No, that's what I'm talking about. 2 guys and a girl, different situation than this. But two girls and a guy, if they enter into that room, I don't want to say 100%, but I mean, usually I'm with one of them. But if they enter into that room and I can escalate on one of them, and if one of them was my girlfriend, it's pretty easy.
Yes.
Because all it needs to do is go like, it's as simple as this, man. And again, I'm a technical guy, and all the PUA red pill guys out there are going to take us in the wrong way, which is not seduction, because choice is imminent in this. Her desiring me is key. But let's say I make out with one of the girls, and all I have to do is say to the other girl that is watching or whatever, and she's like, oh, I don't know, this is like getting weird, I need to go. And it's like, no, like, watch me kiss her. Isn't that a hot, like, fuck, man, I want you to like it. I don't like this unless you like it. And then I'm like, show me that you like it. Give me your choice. Give me your expression.
Right.
Give me you. Like, you play in this game and say yes or no, but don't tell me yes or no out of fear, because that's denying my expression. And in a sense, that's judgment. You know, we were talking about this before, in anger and seduction. And anger and seduction are 2 core human qualities, but with anger, from my perspective, you have this thought out way more than me, is there's judgment, there's definitions, there's boundaries.
Right.
Anger gives, and it's, I need to do this and I have to do this, and there's no need to communicate with other people. And it's a necessary emotion and phenomenon, but the result of that tend to be that style of thinking. Seduction is openness. Seduction is, I'll try, or maybe I can express, I can be and exist within. And so I want to get that from her. At this point, all the PUA red pill guys have now tuned down, and they're like fucking writing beta or cuck in the comment section. But which, let me just tell you, if you do any of that stuff, like group sex or whatever, if like other dudes are fucking your girlfriend or you're fucking their girlfriend, there's nothing, that's fucking awesome, man. But I guess when you're shaming yourself for it, that's what they're referring to. Anyway, whatever. The thing is that if you allow that choice to happen, it's key. So it's black and white to me. They come in there, and if I can escalate on one girl and have her experience sex and feel comfortable with it, have the other woman watch and say like, man, do you like this? And as soon as it gets to this, like, we could stop if you're afraid, because I'm giving you a safe spot. I'm allowing you to feel comfortable with your emotions. But if you like this, show me. And if they show me and I then show them what that does to me, it's on.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Like, it would be like making out with one girl. And I mean, this is a girl that I don't know. I took a bet on this once during a podcast and recorded the whole fucking thing. A little bit of a different situation, but basically one girl I may not know, and this is where it gets touchy. This is also where you have to be responsible and know what sex can do. Is that I could be making out with one and just being like, oh yeah, you're beautiful. This is amazing. Like, look at her tits. You like her tits, or do you like her body? You like how she moves when I kiss her? And the other girl will say, yeah. And then she'll back off. Resistance will come in and be like, you know, this is not good or whatever. Or I don't normally do this. Do you do this with everybody? All sorts of that. There's valid things, right? I'm not excusing it. But what I'm saying is that's the fear. That's the reaction.
Right.
I don't want to put somebody in a place where they have to make a reaction. I want to put somebody in a place where they can make a choice. And we shouldn't be afraid of seduction as a manipulative tool. We should see it as an experience of one of the best sides of humanity. Right. And women experiencing this and knowing how to experience it. And then basically it's like, well, do you like this? Do you, you know, whatever it is. And then I say, man, we could stop. Let's all stop. Yes. You know, girl that I'm making out with, let's stop. Let's like calm down. But if you like this, do what you want. Do what you feel. And if she does, and I show arousal to that, like, fuck, man, that's beautiful. Like, I just got hard for you. Like
the zone.
Yeah. Look at this dick. Like, you want this cum to be yours, or do you want it to be yours? No. And it just, it creates a dynamic which is beautiful. That dynamic is beautiful. That phenomenon, when you experience it, is what makes the feminine so powerful. Because me as a man, I want two women and I want an orgasm. But as soon as I really play this and realize the value of sex, what I want is choice. What I want is her experience. I want her to want it. Yes. And I definitely do not want, and you know, we all think differently after the sexual experience. Like, men are relieved in this other way. If I do not take away that beauty of that, which, because the orgasm is one thing, but experiencing the feminine it stays with you. Yes. It stays with you. Changes your life.
That's what it made for me such a beautiful thing, because you asked what it was, you know. Yeah. And it was so great, you know. I remember, you know.
What do you remember, Hans?
With this girl was so great. What an angel, you know. It just.
But think about this, like, two women giving you oral sex. That's cool, but the feeling behind that is different. You know, like the fantasy that we have of two women doing this act, right. That's what propels us. But that's not what you walked away with. What did you walk away with?
No, what I remember is the relationship between, it's what happened between me and my girlfriend then. That kind of like exploring things together in a way. Mm-hmm. I remember I was fucking this girl, and she was also, and Reed was looking at her, you know. I go, so I love you. It was so great, you know.
But it's different. It's different than what a man can give, you know.
Yeah. But you know what I liked even more was, not even more, but what I remember, this happened over like some period, and I stayed with the two girls in the house, and just have the two women in the house, you know, and talking to each other and making coffee and whatever, cooking or not cooking, and just that feeling, you know. That to me was very precious, you know, like to have that.
No, it's.
Yeah. That was beautiful to me.
Yeah, there was a time when I stayed with three women, and it was amazing. And if you spend too much time, they'll get all angry, and then there's like other problems, and I've heard people describe this in terms of polygamy, and it's just too much work. Too many women is too much work, in my opinion. But this is what he was saying, is that in order to be a man that has this many women, you have to be a great leader. And the way he talked about it wasn't like, oh, I do this for power, I do this to control women. It was like, you know, this is a tough life. to be able to live. And that's how I've always seen it. And for me, that ain't me, man.
I've seen glimpses of it, you know, and just enough to believe that what Steve Pickus was saying could be true. And I don't have enough experience,
Right.
but I have glimpses. And he said this: 1 woman is trouble, 2 women is double trouble, 3 or more is harmony. And the idea was, and I seen a little bit of that, is whenever you have like 1 woman is trouble, 2 they're like bitchy with each other, and 3 in a way you don't need to manage anymore. They're harmonious among each other. And I say I put this out there, not that I know this to be true,
right.
but I'm always been intrigued by that, and I've seen a couple of times that 3 was better than 2.
Yeah.
And so I'm very curious about that and see if I could make that happen.
Yeah. No, it does make sense. I mean, I've only had it for a glimpse, and it was only for 2 weeks. But
Right.
It was amazing, and it's such a great experience. You know, it's like this thing which people I think chase with polyamory or all these different versions of relationships. I feel a lot of times the experience of it is so undeniably beautiful, but the managing
is hard.
Oh man, it's brutal.
I know, man.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like I do believe monogamy is the best one for most people, you know, because I always say I have open relationship, which means I'm very committed to inclusivity, but not to exclusivity. I mean, I share everything and I want to share, but the managing of that is always is tough work, you know.
What would you consider? I'm going to change them really quick. What would you consider monogamy is, though?
Being sexually exclusive.
Okay, so do you think, because a lot of people define it as like it lasts forever,
Right?
But to you, you're sexually exclusive for a period of time.
I know myself well enough to know in the past and present and probably the future that I will never assume, expect, or demand sexual exclusivity or promise it. And that's my openness in a relationship. Yeah.
And with that, like how long, I guess here's a better question is what makes monogamy set in for you?
I've rarely been that. I've rarely been sexually exclusive with a woman.
So, but what inspired that?
Well, for one thing, it's options.
Yeah.
You know.
Not enough women around.
Yeah.
You're not in Kenya.
Or not. Yeah. Because I'm like, you know, I'm if guys had more options, they would be a lot less monogamous. This is a fact. I'm convinced of that, you know.
Well,
but
so I'm with you, man.
I've never been sexually exclusive. I will say that. I've never been monogamous in that sense.
For myself, I got to this point where I wanted to see if I could do it.
Right.
You know. And it wasn't just that. I don't want to downplay like stuff, but I got to this point where I just felt I had experienced everything I wanted to.
Right.
And so that drive had been subdued, but the drive of seeing a beautiful woman, of course, is not. And the beauty and diversity of what another woman can give you, I know is there because everybody's unique sexual expression is amazing. But it was like I wanted to, for lack of a better term, Hans, I wanted to take a stand. I wanted to do something that was of commitment, and I was able to. So I've wanted to do that a bunch of times. And
what was the lure for you? What made it so attractive to make that stand?
At the time, it was pain. I mean, it's kind of a long story, but I had been in a relationship with a woman for 5 years, and a great woman. And it's one of the best stories. When I was dating this woman for like 9 months, I asked the guy, I said, man, I don't know if we should be together. She's perfect. And he said, Steve, you know, there's been 3 women that I've had in my life that were perfect, or maybe it was 2. And he went on to explain them, and it was like, he got all poetic about it. He's a writer, so he's like super, good with his words in that sense. But and he said, but you know what? They were so perfect, but I wasn't ready. And I still stayed with that girl for 4+ more years, and I wasn't ready the whole time. And so we had open relationships. We had times where I just straight up cheated on her. We had times where
you weren't ready for what? For monogamy or for?
We shouldn't have been together.
Okay.
I couldn't give her what she wanted. And man, great, amazing woman, and changed so much of my life. And it all started with sex. It was so beautiful. And so when I came out of that, there was a lot of pain because we should have broken up. In my opinion, when really looking at it, we probably should have ended it a year before we ended it. But, we both held on because it's hard to let go. And we just caused each other a lot of pain. And I remember going through this, and I write about a lot of these things and inventory myself. And I was going over it with one of my mentors, and it was just one of those moments where just out of telling my life story, it brought me to tears. It was just a very just tragic thing of what I felt. And just not that it was like, oh my God, I'm broke. It was just weeping, just running rivers through my eyes of just how this was. It was crazy just to feel that emotion. And he just said to me, he was like, he said, Steve, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get the same results. But then he said, he's like, look, man, because in this inventory, I went through what I valued. And he said, you just went through what you valued. And I forget what they were actually, but this was like 7 years ago. And so he said, you just went through what you valued. And because you're afraid to experience the unknown, doubt, embarrassment, being humiliated, being, taken, like losing a relationship or not having power or whatever, how he worded it, but like losing to women, you won't learn to have these. And so you don't deserve to have those attributes that you're trying to search for as a man. And then what I did was I just went and fucked like 20 chicks and, or whatever, like more like 5 or 6, just went on a rampage and, gave them the good dick and like felt love with them and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, man, he's right. And then when I met my wife, who was also somebody who was very open with sex and had experience and she wasn't a white belt. She wasn't somebody who didn't have a lot of experience. And so she knew what she wanted. And it was like, I think after a month, it was just like, hey, what do you think is going on? And it wasn't the typical discussion of like.
She said that or you?
I think it may have been me, but whoever brought it up, I wanted to have that discussion. And she was like, no, I want this. Let's try it. And so we tried it, and yeah. And then the rest is history. It's great. But dude, for 18 months, I didn't think that I wouldn't be able to cheat, because for years I just cheated because it's so easy, man. I mean, it's like fucking, it's easy. It's easy to keep a secret. It's easy. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. I just wanted to see if I could hold on to the different values that I had. And then you get there, and there is an element that you respect from monogamy, or from having one partner.
What is that?
That it isn't just about what I want; it's about what we build,
right?
And that is more important, and that means something far beyond desire or just individual choice or expression,
right?
And so it's kind of like when you were going through those phases, I was actually thinking like, there's something more than just giving. That it's about pure submission to
the relationship,
something bigger than you,
right?
Which seduction always is.
But how is like surrendering to the bigger cause, let's say, how is that translated into, say, monogamy? And I'm not against it. Like, are you saying you were monogamous or you became monogamous because that's what she wanted?
Oh, no. I had wanted that, and I had felt it and wanted to try it. So it couldn't have happened if she was...
Is it just because of I'm very interested in this. Is it just because of the novelty, or because you see there are values connected to that?
I would actually, like, I hate to say this, but and the way you're defining it is it did have to do with the novelty, the lack of experience, and the attempts to do something new. And yet it did turn into more. from that.
Right.
But it also, it wasn't that it was like, oh, I want to be in a relationship. Let's have one. It had to be with her. It had to be with somebody that I could have it with.
Right.
And that is a big, I guess, factor in it all. Yeah.
I never had that. That's why I'm so interested in it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never
yeah. No,
had
it's a
that
good question.
urge or desire or like longing to be. Maybe I say, oh, maybe if I have that desire only for one person, it would make things easier because I see how much managerial issues come with the desire for.
But you know, I mean, for me personally, I was at a place where I had experienced enough at that time. Like, I'm not done with life yet. You know, who knows what tomorrow will bring? Because it's a daily choice too, that I would say for myself. But I experienced enough of going like, oh, you know, if I need that? Like, I saw something, there was a little meme today. It all comes from memes on Facebook. That's where we find our true wisdom. But my buddies, they run a rehab facility, and it showed a man in a business suit. And he said, I meditate 8 times a day to conquer the world, or so I can conquer the world. And another guy sitting off in the corner, and he says, if you meditated an hour, you might not need to do that.
Right.
And so the more I got in touch with seduction, I felt that there was too much of me in something. See, all these phases that you talk about, which is really amazing. You're saying there's taking, there's the expression, giving,
sharing, yeah.
And I'm putting them in with like, hey, I just learned these an hour ago. In that, you're always worshiping seduction. And I think there's so much about modern day philosophy where this is self-serving. And I truly feel it can never be self-serving. And I'm at this point where there's a different expression of that seduction where you can't be self-serving.
Yes.
And I'm no longer serving her, no longer serving me, or there are those elements always there, but I'm serving kind of what we've done.
Yes. You're serving the relationship, or you're at the service of the seduction at play. You know, you're a master of ceremony, and I really believe that's the way to go. And it's when I'm at my best, when I see my interconnectedness with the other people, you know, and might get my personality, my ego out of the way, and I do what I'm supposed to do, you know, in that encounter, in that meeting, in that date, in that relationship, and it's very much being at the service of when you truly seduce.
Yeah. It's really a beautiful thing, but there are those things. And also because my wife is so tall, she's huge. And I guess huge is the wrong word. She get all pissed off. She'll fucking wake up and there'll be a knife at me. And the headlock. Dude, the headlock ain't what I'm worried about, man. It's the dude, I have a funny story, man. There's this one time where I woke up and there was a girl grabbing my nuts like fucking in a fist. And she was just like, what the fuck did you do last night? And I'm just like, you're like, I'll say anything just to get myself safe. But
this was your wife?
No. This girl was another badass chick. But when I think about it, and I think about being with my wife and having that one body, you think about other bodies and just the experience, or you see another face and you just like, I'll see a woman's face and I'll just be like, man, what is she like when she comes? What is she like when she shows that side of her? That's so beautiful, you know?
I really like your expression when you go into desire, you know?
Oh, dude, man. Yeah,
it's like that Nacho Vidal, the porn star guy who speaks about it.
Yeah. God, dude.
Desire.
But there needs to be more him and Rocco's.
Yes.
And, that's the beauty of it. Like, God, dude.
It's one of the two biggest, I say, taboos. Anger is one. Desire is certainly one. You know, we're so afraid of our desire, and it's a primal guiding principle that has, you know, over the ages steered us right. You know, and it totally, to me, it's the holy grail is to find what I desire. You know, to follow it then.
But the cultural taboos are the things that I was most interested in what you were saying. The last time, because anger, desire, why are you drawn to that? Are they because they're taboos or?
No, but because if we want to be man, if we want to find ways to express ourselves, if we want to seduce, we have to come to terms with it, you know. And the first step in that is recognize that it's a taboo, you know. recognize that you've been schooled your whole life to be a good boy, you know, and that prevents you from being a great man. And it's very important to come to terms with your own desire and really celebrate it and live it. You know, it's really important to come to terms with your anger also, you know, celebrate it and incorporate it. And so that's the only reason why I address the taboo, because I see guys, hey, it's not your fault that you're in this place, but it is your fault if you keep perpetuating, not expressing your desire, not coming to terms with your anger, you know?
And so I got a question on this, because with the cultural taboo, with the being a good boy, then impossible being able to be a great man, which I think is a great way to put it. I see these guys who walk in with shame for their sex or with their anger.
Yes.
But with shame comes a rebellion. It's almost like you're told Santa Claus doesn't exist. And you're like, what the fuck? Parents suck. But then as you get older, you might see a reason why they may have said that or whatever. Which is not the essence of anger, or not the essence or the complete story to seduction. When you see men that are, I guess, pained from not experiencing, well, let's start with anger. Where do you start with them?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
I start by asking them, you know, what really infuriates them. And they go with small things, you know, and then you poke a little deeper.
And where does that go?
A lot of resentment towards the people they live with, a lot of resentment towards their parents.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of anger with themselves.
When that anger discharges, what do you see with them?
It's very, when you come to terms with anger, and most men don't, it's very cathartic. How do you say that? Cathartic?
Cathartic, yeah.
Yeah. It's very healing. It's very healing, the first step to come to terms with it. It's very empowering also, because it gives you the awareness to use it for something good. Yeah, I would say the strongest part is experience that I see is it's very empowering. It really gives guys, like, there's first a release, and then there's like you stand different, you move differently when you acknowledge it, when you work with it.
You know, and I ask you this because you had brought up, you know, when the lion goes for the chase and he doesn't get the kill, he doesn't complain about it. And I think there's a phenomenon with anger where people rebel, or they want to sustain it, or they think anger means picking a fight. And don't get me wrong, like, anger has fighting. Anger has these beautiful qualities to it. But to somebody who's experienced it, like, for instance, like, I got angry that my hard drive dropped, and I was really angry. And man, it was so beautiful, just because so what happened was I was editing some of the footage that we had shot, and like, I didn't back it up properly. It was on one singular hard drive with a bunch of stuff, and my kid knocked it over. I got really mad, and he looked at me, and then I was like, man, I got to cut this. And I stopped it. And it was tough to do, and to hold on to then the pain. And then, like, talking to my friend Jim and Ben, who know you, kind of talking me off of that ledge, or, you know, just how much I had screwed up. But around my kid, I was able to essentially repress it, turn it into something else. And even to this day, this was Saturday and today is Tuesday, I still look at him and I go like, man, what a beautiful moment. He doesn't care. He's just like, oh man, I guess Dad got mad, but he wasn't really mad.
I just saw a beautiful video of Gracie teachers, like generation, and it was a program where they take kids that got into fights and that went viral, and they take this kid, this black kid, and he's like, yeah, I got a fight. I would do it again. He got beat up,
Yeah.
Two guys just beat him up. He said, I would do it again. I would do it again. And so those two teachers, Gracie jiu-jitsu teachers, they teach him the skills of jiu-jitsu. But the most important thing they want to teach him is to not get into the fight.
Yeah.
And so he gets all the skills and say he's really good. And then at the end of the program, they send him home and they like put him in a situation he didn't know it, that two guys come up to him and like really disrespect him, and really want to pick a fight. And he stays away from it, and to them that was also the higher good, because they could beat up anyone,
Yeah.
and they don't do it. That's the power of it. And to me, that was when I speak of anger and come to terms with it, it is more about your power to destroy, stand your ground if necessary, but do everything possible to not get into a fight also. I think that's
it's really a beautiful thing, because when we talk about seduction, and I think we can have anger's a discussion that men need to have more,
yes,
that they can talk about, because when we talk about seduction, we could talk about all this stuff, right? And there's a very clear distinction, which I feel I can define to somebody or whatever, like make clear, where it's like, no, man, fucking or like the threesome thing. One thing that I didn't fully say at the end of that was like, when I do that, a lot of people see that as manipulation, but my goal isn't to get a girl to do something that she doesn't want to do. It's to get her to do something that she feels in her body and she can talk about, and that afterwards she can feel good about. So there's a whole after process too. If you just leave her, it can turn into some bad stuff.
Right.
And so with anger, I hear a lot of guys talk about fighting, and now there's this breed of men that do fight, that now, because MMA is popular and like martial arts and fighting, combative martial arts is popular, and they don't hear the message of the martial artist anymore, and the martial artist always said, take the higher road and learn what these things are. And we hear men who have now had the ability to fight, just like we heard pickup artists who, in the rare breed, because there's not a lot of pickup artists that actually get laid a lot, but then still talk about dominance and misogyny. And you can be misogynistic, you could be dominant, but there's also another side to that, which if you exclude, it's totally incomplete. And with fighting, I think people need to talk about it more, because to look, I can't explain why I experienced what I experienced with my son, but it was right and it was good. And it was awesome. And I've gotten mad at my kids a lot. When you have kids, you get pissed off. But there's go ahead.
I'll tell a story too. And like I was in love once, with a woman, and
once,
like really in love, and it was dying. I could feel we were not good boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah.
But I was still like, we went away and we came back together, and I said I'm going to try again. And at that moment, she told me, or it became clear to me, that she had something with my best friend at the time. And first I thought, whoa, this is great, because it was dying and I wished him the best and whatever. And then I felt enormous anger, and it was because it didn't end on my terms, and my heartbreak was completely like connected with that, and I could see that happening, and my anger was so big, and I remember hearing, we were all in Hawaii, and I hear her, the only woman I ever was in love with, giggle in the next room with my best friend,
Oh, that's a terrible
and
feeling,
it was so gut-wrenching. And I still remember to this day, and I don't know what happened there, but even though I had so much sadness, so much pain, so much anger also, another part of me said, no, I'm going to make this glorious for everyone, And we were all in Hawaii, and we talked so much, and I really had like going back and forth between like motherfuckers, And on the other hand,
oh dude,
because you have both. You cannot say I don't have this. It was, we want to kill them. And on the other hand, you go like, no, I want to make this glorious, And you sit in that. I sat with them. I sat in the pain because I knew I had to like experience that. So I went all through it. And at the same time, I held them all, I held the girlfriend, I held the guy, I held myself. And I said, what can I do to make this glorious? To me, that's seduction also, That's seduction right there. to know that dark side, because my ego is so much connected to that, you know, to look at it and say, fuck this, you know, I'm going to do the glorious thing, you know, I'm not going to react to however I feel, but I'm going to act in accordance with how I want my life to look like, you know, and that whole struggle, you know, that to me is one of the defining moments in my life where I saw that in the moments of biggest, like, how would I say, what it was the hardest for me, I could be at my most glorious. You know, I could make that choice. I could, like, it was a constant struggle, you know, but it's in that struggle that I could be incredibly glorious, you know. So despite that anger, you know.
Yeah. But that's a crazy situation. Like people don't understand. Like people think like, oh, well, logically it's not. There's a primal feeling of pain, of hurt, of being left out, and then easy to get angry. I mean, there's a reason why so many like friendships or marriages or whatever, and like this happens a lot in threesomes too, is like, hey, let's fuck everybody, and then the next day it's like, you know, it's cool when it's happening, but then it may not be so cool afterwards. You know, I think that when we experience those things of anger, we have to, kind of like what my mentor was telling me, is we have to reach for an ideal and we have to see if we can make it work. And that is our only guide.
Yes.
It's interesting because there's, man, I'm going to botch this, but my theory on things is nature is king and man is a slave to nature. There's a filmmaker in Austin. He's from Texas. I think he's from Waco, named Terrence Malick, and he's kind of like my idol in terms of visuals. He's amazing. But in most of his films, and I could get this wrong, like I watch his films, I enjoy them. All the people theorizing about him, and Terrence Malick's this like crazy philosopher. I don't fucking know. But it's kind of the opposite of what I think. And so what I assume it is this like part of man's greatest quality is what he can bring outside of nature, outside of his nature.
Yes.
And work towards his man-made ideals.
Yes.
And the way he shows it in his films, if I'm interpreting it right or having it explained to me properly, like I said, I just like watching him. It's unbelievable, like how the guy will make it work. But that is beautiful. Like philosophically, I might, and like, I don't fucking know. I totally know like I'm wrong about a lot of stuff, but I have a guiding principle in my life that works for me, which is we are a slave to nature. And when you start working on new things, like the experience of anger and working a higher ground or whatever you want to call it, man, that is amazing.
Yes.
Like it's amazing if you can make it out on the other end, which takes force.
Yes.
Like you had to force.
And constant vigilance, you know, and it's never done. You have to like catch yourself again. It's like when you talk about addiction, you know, you're never, once you're there, it's never out of you. It's always there. You have to deal with it. You have to like stay on top of it, you know?
Yeah, there's different theories on that. And, you know, I follow one just out of discipline. At this point, it's out of discipline. I don't even know if I fully believe it because I've seen it disproven. But at the same time, I've seen people attempt to disprove it like over 10-1 and then like end up dying. And so that's not good. But I've seen where I believe the difference is of where the guys and girls I know who've disproven the idea of like, let's say total abstinence or, you know, that you have it for the rest of your life to be able to succeed. But it's not as simple. You know, it's just like a friend or, you know, whatever, sleeping with your girl or those types of things. Man, I don't know. There's so much that we could talk about. And plus, it's funny because you've been asking me questions and I've been like forgetting what I want to ask you. But what do you want to, I guess, pass on to people? To me, you seem like a guy who considers legacy as an important thing. I don't. I don't like thinking of things in that way. But
I don't think in terms of legacy. Not really like what I leave, but I do feel like I'm shifting way more into like being at the service. And I feel that's when I'm at my most powerful, it feels right. So I'm not necessarily like legacy in terms like my name has to be connected with it, but I really feel that my success is like transformation of others. And that's what I'm shifting more and more and more into. Like I said, I was always the artist and then also the teacher and the coach, and I look way more now at how all my conceptual, philosophical, and by philosophy is very practical in its original sense, how to like make that work for the other. Because I was here and people looked at it and thought it was great and took things from it, and now I'm way more like looking at like what's going on with the other, and how can I help him? How can I help her? And that's a change I see over the years.
Do you feel that sort of inspiration came from seduction?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Because when you're describing it, it's like, man, it just seems.
It's just, they say that if you walk the shoes of someone else, it's a song. If you were see where the other comes from, or if you walk their shoes, it's really hard to hate them.
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible. And more so, the more I walk shoes of the other, the more I hear stories, the more I see myself in it. The more I recognize, the more I see they're my people. The more I see they're me also, the more I see I want to help, So it's a process of being me and conquering the world or saving the world or whatever.
Sure.
Into like feeling the interconnectedness. It seems very mystical now. Feeling the interconnectedness and of course helping, and being kind and being helpful.
I mean, but look, you can say it's mystical all you want, but we're fueled by connection of others, a connection that we do not know, that our attempt to know is a guess. And so what inspires us with people is a guess. What inspires us with people is never an absolute. When we seek absolutes, it's usually for like a man-made concept like work or whatever. But with that.
Yeah, there's something there. It's that same thing that makes me so hopeful about relationships, We're so crippled in the way we relate, but I'm so hopeful because I can see we want it so badly, We want friendships, we want allies, we want lovers, we want a great family. And we're not satisfied if we don't have that. We're not satisfied if we don't have connection, if we don't have community. And so that's the biggest hope for me of humanity, that we have that desire. It is so, that yearning, that longing for connection. It's so primal,
Yeah.
And so we'll keep being crippled and keep trying and fucking it up until we make it right, and we'll get there. I'm convinced of that,
So you think that mankind can change in this, that
that
will evolve to a new.
Yes. The way we relate to one another, if we save enough planet and if we get enough time, because we can fuck it up that way also. But it's the new frontier. It's the last frontier. The way we relate to one another is really this is to me where all our focus is going to be on, because it's what makes us happy. It's what makes us healthy. Scientific fact, it's what gives meaning to life. It's the way we relate to one another, with our lovers, with our friends, with our families. That's where our being is going to be sculpted. It's for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. We've spent too much time with our ambitions in terms of like work and acquiring things and whatever. We've ignored it for a long time now, and it results in a lot of depressions and suicides, and it's just a matter of time that we're going to say, okay, I better dedicate some of my work ethic to my relationships.
I mean, like, so we talked about legacy and all this other stuff. If there was something for me, this would be it. And I don't even want to say that I want to be so bold that I'm going to change the world socially, but my inspiration for teaching or doing anything, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's having sex with women and teaching men about that, it always has this residing theme that the essence of humanity is connection. And that the further away that we get from that, we have problems. And we have problems with that now.
Yes.
And so I don't want to say like I want to be remembered for it, but what I live for is what connection is. And I don't want to, like, I'm not an ambassador towards it, so I like fuck up and whatever. But like the thing is that if we miss that, man, if we miss that.
I see it when I see you with the group, how much you care. And it's not it's not it's something very natural to you. I see it, and you're very connected with the guys in that sense. You know, it's like your care speaks. It's not like me, Steve, and then you, Jim, and I talk to you. You know, you're very, it's hard to describe this, but you're very in it, and you do what you have to do. You play your role, you know, and in this group, it could be that you're the leader, but you'll do whatever is needed from you to speak that connection. And I see it in the way you talk to guys and try to help them out, you know. It comes from a place of deep care and connection. I see that, you know. It's nice
so to you, what does that mean? Like, that's great how I do it, but like to you, like how does that inspire you? Like, where do you see
how does that
world?
Inspire me?
What is the potential of the world?
I see my ego thinking. I see me sometimes thinking of me, and like in seduction, I see me and the other, and I'm convincing or I'm conquering you, which is great. But then in the more mystical moments, I don't, for example, don't seek to create a connection with this girl. I speak to the connection we already have. I see all of her. I see she's a woman. I see she's a human. I see all of her desires and dreams. I see how they're so similar to me. I know what I can understand why she's bitchy, you know, and I see the same thing in me. And I just speak to that. So I don't create anything, so when I speak from a place of seeing our interconnectedness, rather than like I'm trying to create a connection here, I'm so much more powerful because we're already on the same side. We're already on the same team. We're already there. You understand?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that, for example, it works for seduction. What I see you do with the group is that you're completely there. You're completely connected. You're completely on that level, taking care of a guy. It's not just me, Steve, the teacher or the leader, whatever, and now I speak to you.
But it's interesting because, like, you had said I feel the world's gonna transition.
Yes.
But where I truly feel the only way the world can transition is just how you described, is one person talking to another.
Yes.
It can't come from a leader broadcasting to 1,000 people. If there's anything with all the interview stuff that I do, and the main point is that a person goes out and has a conversation and represents themselves. They don't imitate me or whatever.
But imagine the influence you've had on people just by speaking that way, you know? And they go on and, you have no idea how much it's already like... We need 300 men. 300 men is all we need, man.
That's it. That could take over the world, huh? And so let's bring it back to art, because we talked about art in the first thing that we did that has some salvageable evidence that it happened. But when it comes down to art, man, I always felt that, because that was my thing always. And I never used my real name during art, actually, because it was never mine. And then this book, The Art of War, came out, which I like, but then it describes this thing which when I was like 20 years ago, I was like obsessed. I'd get in fights with people about it. I was so nuts, man. Like, this is how it is. It is like God flowing through me, and it is not me. That's why I can't use my own name. And people would be like, but you say God. And I'm like, I don't even believe in God. And anyway, I'd like want to fight people over this. But anyway, the thing is that when it came to art was this glimpse of beauty or truth that I saw. This glimpse is like, you look out at this beautiful view and you're like, there's potential, there's something.
Right.
But I am flawed as a man, and because I'm flawed as a man, I own it, and my ego steps in and
Yes.
I create this thing. But if I show it to you, you're going to see this thing, this light design, or this play that I did, or this photograph or motion picture, or you're going to see it.
Right.
And I want you to see me, but really what I want is for you to see that thing.
Right.
That glimpse of truth,
Right.
that little wink of the truth, reality, God, whatever it is. And, man, do you relate with that as an artist?
Yeah. It's incredible how much the sacred has grown out of the profane, you know? Like I think it's our job as human beings to, like, just be desire driven, ego driven, struggling with it, try to become aware, do all of that, and then because and it's so faulty, even like every time I speak, like in this interview, I constantly think, the fuck, it's never as dignified, it's never as beautiful, it's never as concise, it's never as powerful as I would want to,
Yeah.
but it alludes to it. It's like it hints upon something.
Cannot, but it can't. It's bigger than you.
Yes.
But
I think.
And you say seduction is the ultimate art form or a art form?
To me, it's a bit charged, of course.
Well, sure.
But it's charged because
statement.
I want people to pay attention. Because seduction has such a bad connotation, and I'm reclaiming the pivotal part of seduction in the way we relate to one another. It's like, it's no secret anymore that quality relationships are the number one determinant of your happiness and your health. Nothing matters more important than your genes, your diet, your fitness, your whatever. Quality relationships will decide if you live long and if you live happy and if you live healthy, more than anything. And to me, what it means to have a quality relationship, the key to that is seduction. And so I reclaim it as a pivotal part. And so that's why I charge it also. I say it's the fastest way to spiritual enlightenment. It's the last frontier. And because I want people to look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, what can seduction do? How can it affect my life? And it's an essential component. It's the creation of beauty, and therefore so essential. Because we crave that so much.
What I would say is like, because it's tough. I see beauty in so many ways, but there's nothing like I've seen beauty through a woman and through sex and through the experience. And I even feel bad saying for a woman, because I think any sex, for a woman, she may see it through a man. For a homosexual person, they'll see it through their same sex. But that ability. And I think because beauty in nature is there and it's undeniable, and you look at it and it's like, you really can't compare. You can't. When you stand over the Grand Canyon, or when you look at a sunset, or you were in Hawaii and you see, it's unbelievable. You stand in front of a big valley. It's impossible to photograph it. It's impossible to capture what you feel. But there's something so relatable about humans seeing art through each other. Oh, fuck, man. Like, it's so good. It's so good. It's crazy. It can kill you. It can make you go nuts. But if you can understand it, not get too delusional with it, and see it as the common thing.
Right. Yeah, it's like, it's the divine, and we're, at least in my experience, sometimes I get so tired of being me, that I want
True.
Want to know that I'm more than just this,
Yeah.
And
but you get to be someone else.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
Yes.
Like the true beauty of seduction is that I am no longer me. She is no longer her. We're each other through each other. It's insane.
Yeah, there's something else there. There's something else you step into. It's It's the same when you're in love, or when there's a song that really speaks to you, you transform in a way, or there's something there that's calling you.
Yeah, music is like, when I think of the highest art. So first off, I do a lot of photography. I don't consider it an art. It is, but to me, it doesn't access it. Theater, filmmaking, those types of things are. But music and literature are so insane to me, because you can capture, for me, the experience of it.
Yeah.
Whether creating it or absorbing it, reading a book, it takes you to a different place.
That's what it is.
Music. Unbelievable.
That's what it is. Because the whole problem of, you can't describe it, because that's exactly the role of it. Like music, seduction, like hints upon a different world. It's like there's something out there, and I'm not just describing it. I'm not articulating it, but there's something out there. I hint upon it. I suggest it. And you go, whoa! You feel that call. There's something else there. And then what seduction does is, like, it helps you and it guides you to move into that direction, you know. And it could be the greater good. It could be your best self. It could be the glory of a relationship, you know. But something else is calling, and that's what seduction does. Is to, wow, this is very.
No, keep
but
going.
that's what seduction does, is to hint upon a different world. That's not describable in scientific terms, in common sense terms, in words, you know. And that's the power of it.
But to define it, it would ruin it.
Yes, exactly. If it's on the record, it's no longer seduction. It's like, maybe I gave this example last time, but seduction thrives so much on the unspoken.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. There's a great video by Alan Pinker, and it says about how a professor, how language.
Steven Pinker?
Steve Pinker. How language gives us an insight in the way we relate to one another. And he talks about seduction in a way too. And there's he talks about when Harry met Sally, and they're friends, and they maintain the fiction of friendship, but there's some attraction there. And at some point the guy says, well, why don't we have sex? And she says, well, what did you say? He says, forget it. You know, I didn't say anything. And she says, well, I can't forget it. It's already out there. They both know what was going on. They both are maintaining the friendship they're maintaining the fiction of friendship. But the moment he speaks something that they both know, but they can't really say, they can't maintain that fiction anymore. So there's enormous power in putting something on the record, putting it out there, you know, and seduction works in complete different ways. That's why it's so hard to talk about seduction in the Me Too and in the when no means no, because it doesn't.
And I think when we overly define it, we neuter ourselves in so many ways.
Yes.
And so what we got to start doing, and like, man, I hate that I have to say this because I know what you're meaning.
Yes.
But other people may not know, or I assume I know. But the thing is that when we overly define that, we take away the wondering, the curiosity, or the idea that
awkwardness, which is essential.
Oh man, yeah, the nervousness,
it's essential.
The doubt. You know, when I see men take away their doubt, when they see them try and replace their insecurities with a false sense of confidence. I mean, real confidence means that you can feel bad,
exactly
all this sort of stuff,
nervousness.
And when we take away from women the ability to fear and yet come to a part of feeling good.
Yes.
And you could even argue, and very much argue, that it's men have lost their way of knowing how to calm that down, to have a space where a woman can be a woman. I mean, it's so crazy because you could take a woman who's terrified from being harmed, but you put her in a spot that is safe for her to express, and she will do all the things that she thought she would never do when the barriers and borders are up.
And it's not it's a tough discussion, you know. It's a discussion we must have, but we certainly cannot have it without like understanding the role of seduction in it. We cannot have that discussion if we're not addressing that some things are better left unsaid. We cannot address that. We cannot have that discussion if in a purely scientific way. You can't have it, you know, because when you lay it out there, you know, there's some things you can't lay out there, you know, because as soon as you do, it evaporates, you know. So seduction laughs with that.
You know, it's funny because society needs laws and a lot of people need laws, but if we have expression, they cannot have laws around them. I think we miss the point and this happens when we get overly populated. And this is also why I don't think we may not evolve to a new self or something, because the thing that is going to save us, we can never define. Whether it's seduction, whether it's God, whether it's beauty.
Okay, we cannot define it, but that's okay. We can hint upon it, and we know it's there. It's in all the songs. It's in the way we fall in love. So it's there. We know. We really like to like grasp it also, you know. But we don't have to like. It's the same with women. You know, guys tell me, "Do you understand women?" I said, "No, I don't understand women, but I know how to handle them." You know, it's a different thing. You don't need to understand. You don't need to like have have that power and knowledge over it to know how to deal with it. You know?
And that's part of the letting go of the man. So
Yes,
women and
exactly.
men, I feel, need to submit
Yes.
to this phenomenon that has been around since time. And you know, back to this like thing with laws, we get so caught up in it as men and women. And we think that's what's going to save us. But we're having laws because our expression has been damaged.
Yes.
And if our laws are there to serve expression, not to serve laws or the value of the law.
That's pure fascism, you know. When the law becomes the goal in itself, then.
And yeah, man. And in a way, that's where we're at. Not saying that we're fascist, but we're idolizing. We're looking at.
Yes.
And what would make you look at fascism to help you is fear, is scarcity, is without the limiting of our expression. You know, it's so amazing. Well, anyway, man, you wanna end it here, pick it up again on another day.
Sure, that's good.
How do you feel?
My discussions with you are always like very thought provoking. I see that your experiences have been different than mine, and sometimes I really have to pay attention to see where you're going, you know. But it's very rich. It's very rich, and so it's just me trying to like. It's the part of me is trying to like box it all, understand it all, you know, and the other part is just happy letting go, you know, and I feel I'm comfortable with that, you know, and it's for me it's great to have the conversation, to see a fellow man think about these things, you know, very experience driven, you know.
Well, I never get to talk like this about somebody who gets seduction in this way. Like that. So that's like I do amongst my groups, but it's very cool to see a person that I don't talk to on a regular basis that is speaking the same thing, but using a different set of words and experiences, which is very, very cool and very sad that I can't have that sort of conversation.
Well, you can now,
folks.
man. I'm your brother.
I know,
Just pick up the phone.
I know, man. I know. But that's also why I think we should do more, do as much media as possible, whether it's for your stuff or my stuff, because I think it's good, man. I think that capturing how guys think about this in a different way, because I hear people talk about sex in all the wrong ways, in my opinion. Anyway, that's it.
Well, thank you.
Final words, final thoughts.
I was just thinking of all the guys that are looking at it. And what the fuck are they talking about? Because we do have you're there and I'm here, you know, and you talk from your experience and me from my, you know, so the other people are not really present. And so, but that has value in itself, you know.
But I also wonder too, like, are you misrepresented in this without stating exactly what you do? You know, like things like saving your family, finding a mentor, these other qualities. We got 5 minutes.
Okay. I'll tell you what I do. What we're doing right now is challenging men to be great again. Through a series of missions.
To build a wall.
Through a series of missions, we want men to reconnect with the feeling of honor, of dignity, of self-respect. Because I see in it the most transformative power a man has right here, right now. Instead of acquiring all these skills, become a bigger version of yourself, a better version of yourself. What a man can do right here, right now, without any skills, without any experience, you know, is he can make a stand. He can make a stand to be a different man from this day forward. He can make a stand for his family. He can make a stand to be a certain man for the women in his life. He can make a stand for his brothers. He can go back for his brothers. He can honor his father. Whatever that is, he can make a stand right here, right now, and his life will change from this day on forward. He will look at himself differently, and he will have women look at him differently. And so to me, to find ways for men to see the value of that, to experience what happens when you make a stand, that's what we're working on right now.
And what are some of those qualities? Because you have 13 things?
Oh, we have missions and challenges like going back for a brother, honoring your father, reconnect with your ancestors, you know, take care of a woman. All of these are missions designed that when you complete them, you're going to feel, I've done something, you know, I made a stand. And or what we're working on right now is go to a place where you're welcomed as you are, instead of, we're in the States now, and it's tough for guys, man. It's tough. It's brutal.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, and guys are like, wow, what did I do wrong? How can I improve myself? You know, go to another place where you're already welcome as you are. For example, go to Colombia, go to many parts of Asia, go to Africa, you know, and you're going to be welcomed as you are. You're going to say, fuck, that's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And it's one that's needed for guys to feel, you know, that self-respect and know what women are thinking also.
If I didn't experience women, and especially women from other countries, I would have, you couldn't find the truth. And not to knock American women, but American women and men bring too much baggage, politics, and not like I'm fine with baggage, like you have trauma or you have pain because that's you, but so much baggage that keeps them from being them. It's like more masks, those types of things.
Or keeps them from playing along, you know?
Yeah.
Casanova said the only thing he didn't like was women that don't play along, that want to be, you know, and it's, you know, but it's understandable, you know. Nobody's to blame, not men or women, but we are in a rather fucked up situation, and it doesn't have to be this way, and it is not like this in many other parts in the world. So,
well, you know, this is interesting. I was thinking about this on the ride over here when I was sitting in traffic and you rode your bike. I'm like, I got to ask Hans this because he's a philosopher, and I actually forget all the depth of it, but men and women. Well, women act this way when they're this and that. Men act this way. And we put so much blame on each other.
Yes.
I think the way that we're living, there's so much pressure that we act in different ways, and we're not going back to the ways that we act without the pressure. Mm-hmm. And that's the guide for us. Whereas like we sit there and go like, oh, well, feminism, and now we have to fight feminism, or men and misogyny. Now we need to fight that. You need to not make that the fight. That is part of the system, which is making you
That's exactly
up.
True.
Yeah.
And I see it so many people, you know, they're one side of the divide, and you like, we're not going to solve it that way. We're not going to argue our way out of that. You know, you're going to seduce your way out of it, which means you honor the other in their world. Know where the feminist is coming from. I can see it, you know, I understand, you know, and then know where Jordan Peterson is coming from. I understand it, you know, but you're not going to solve it by arguing and saying that someone is wrong.
You know, and it's weird because like what I see from feminism or Jordan Peterson or like a lot of the people that guys listen to is they're saying good things, but the other side's not listening. So it's not working.
Exactly.
And that's what's fucked.
You got to meet the other in their world first. Instead of saying, no, you got to say, what's it like to walk your shoes? If you can't do that, you'll never change anyone. You won't.
It's funny because like these people like Jordan Peterson or Sam Harris or these guys will say like, I'm not a gateway to the alt-right. I'm like, clearly. And and the reason why they are is because the other side can't listen to them for various reasons. But it's that pressure, man. It's not about just women or men and what's wrong with the individual as a people. Like you're not going to solve society's problems by the individual, but you are going to solve the individual's problem by talking to the individual. And that's what we need to do. And you can think about society all you want and you can blame, but have that conversation with one other person.
It's like I use it too to say like I really see your point of the pressure, you know. It's so hard for people, and so nobody's to blame for the situation that we're in, you know. I would say the situation that we're in, but we are to blame if we're perpetuated. By that I also mean each one of us has the power, the opportunity to change it around. You could see it in your interaction right here, right now, you know. You could change that. You could do it.
And that's why it's all seduction. Because
that's why it's seduction
is only worthwhile if the two parties are involved.
Exactly. If it's not a win-win, you know, it's not going to solve anything. Seduction is a win-win, you know, and that's why it's so essential.
Yeah, like at the end of Eyes Wide Shut, man, we all need to fuck. Or they say we need to fuck, but we don't need to fuck. Well, maybe. Yes. Nick Sparks is showing up. We can get it.
I was thinking you were going to introduce a girl, but
dude, oh man, I wish that camera was pointing that way. I was like, fuck, man, Jesus, what the fuck? Why are we talking about all this shit? We should be looking at her.
But it's true. I looked at her.
Oh yeah.
But we continued the interview instead of.
Yeah, we're idiots. All right, that's it. No mas. Good stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Good. I always feel like the talking about it, it's always an approximation.
What do you mean?
Like it's never gonna come close even to the experience of like with
That's
a
art,
warm
though.
seduction, you know.
That was like that still is the biggest struggle of me with art. And I've let go of it a little bit. Like, I couldn't, well, if I did get successful as a filmmaker in my 20s, it would have been fucking retarded. But, because there's too much ego, you know? And now I've like let go of it a little bit. And I mean, I don't know if I'll do anything with it other than these types of things, but I would get so mad because I'm like, no, you need to see what I see, which isn't even mine to begin with, you know?
Right.
But now I'm a little bit more relaxed, but talking about it is good. It's worthless.